The fluorescent lights of Rosie's diner flickered against the rain-streaked windows as Cassidy Clancey wiped down the counter for what felt like the 1000th time that night. Her hands moved with mechanical precision, muscle memory from 3 years of this same routine. 3 years of hiding. 3 years of being someone she wasn't. Outside, the Portland streets glistened under the streetlights, and the November cold seeped through every crack in the old building. It was 11:47 p.m., and the diner was nearly empty except for old Joe nursing his 4th cup of coffee in the corner booth, and a young couple whispering sweet nothings in booth 3. Cassidy tucked a strand of her dark hair behind her ear and glanced at the clock. 13 minutes until her shift ended. 13 minutes until she could go back to her tiny studio apartment, lock the door, and pretend for another night that her old life had never existed. The bell above the door chimed. A man stumbled in, and immediately Cassidy's trained eyes catalogued everything about him. Mid-40s. Expensive suit, now rumpled and stained. Dark hair slicked back, face pale and sweating despite the cold. Korean features, sharp jawline, but his usual composure, whatever it had been, was completely gone. His hand clutched his stomach, and his breathing came in short, desperate gasps. He made it 3 steps before his knees buckled. Cassidy was already moving, her waitress persona falling away like a shed skin. She vaulted over the counter with the agility of someone who'd spent years in combat training, catching the man before his head could crack against the checkered tile floor. "Sir, can you hear me?" Her voice was steady, professional. Nothing like the sweet, mild-mannered waitress who'd been wiping down counters moments before. The man's eyes fluttered open, and for a moment they locked with hers. They were dark, intelligent, and currently filled with pain and something else, calculation even in his suffering. "I was poisoned," he gasped, his accent thick but his English clear. Don't call 911. They'll finish what they started." Cassidy's mind raced. Every instinct screamed at her to call for help, to not get involved, to maintain the quiet life she'd built. But another part of her, the part that had spent 6 years as a military medic in Afghanistan and Iraq, the part that had saved countless lives under fire, was already assessing his condition. Rapid pulse, excessive sweating, pale clammy skin, constricted pupils, difficulty breathing. The symptoms painted a clear picture, but she needed more information. "What kind of poison?" she demanded, already checking his airways, her fingers finding his pulse point. "When were you exposed?" "At dinner, 30 minutes. His words came between gasps. "Aconite. I think. Aconite." Cassidy's blood ran cold. Aconite. Wolfsbane. One of the deadliest plant-based poisons known to man, and there was no specific antidote. If he'd ingested it 30 minutes ago, he was already past the point of no return unless she acted fast. "Jenny!" she shouted at the other waitress, a college student who was staring in frozen horror. "Get me the first aid kit from the back. Now. And bring me activated charcoal if we have any. Also milk, lots of it." The man grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. "No hospital. No police. They're waiting for me to die. You help me. I owe you everything." "Who's they?" Cassidy asked, already knowing she shouldn't care, shouldn't engage. "My organization. Someone betrayed me." Organization. The word confirmed what Cassidy had already suspected. This wasn't some random businessman. The expensive suit, the mention of betrayal, the fear of hospitals. This man was connected to something dark, something she'd promised herself she'd never touch again. But her hands were already working, her training overriding her common sense. She positioned him on his side in case of vomiting, loosened his tie, and checked his breathing pattern again. "What's your name?" she asked, trying to keep him conscious. Daniel Reaver." The name hit her like a physical blow. Even in her 3 years of hiding, even working night shifts at a dingy diner in a city she'd never visited before her witness protection placement, she'd heard that name. Daniel Reaver. Head of the Korean-American Mafia syndicate that controlled everything from the Portland docks to the underground gambling dens in Seattle. A man who commanded fear and respect in equal measure. And she was trying to save his life. Jenny returned with the first aid kit, her hands shaking. "Cassidy, should I call?" "No," both Cassidy and Daniel said simultaneously. Cassidy grabbed the activated charcoal tablets she'd insisted the diner keep on hand, a precaution from her old life that everyone had thought was paranoid. She crushed them quickly, mixing them with water. This is going to taste horrible, but you need to drink all of it. It might absorb some of the poison still in your system. She lifted his head, supporting him as he drank. And we need to induce vomiting. Now. For the next 20 minutes, Cassidy worked with the focused intensity that had earned her a commendation in the army. She induced vomiting, administered the activated charcoal, monitored his vital signs, and used every trick she'd learned in the field to keep Daniel Reaver alive. Old Joe had wisely shuffled out into the night. The young couple had left money on the table and disappeared. Jenny stood guard at the door, her phone clutched in her hand, torn between calling for help and following Cassidy's increasingly urgent instructions. Daniel's color began to improve slightly, his breathing less labored, but Cassidy knew he wasn't out of danger. Not by a long shot. Aconite poisoning could cause cardiac arrhythmia for hours or even days after exposure. He needed proper medical care, antiarrhythmic drugs, constant monitoring. But he'd been right about one thing. If his own organization had poisoned him, they'd have people watching the hospitals. The moment he showed up at an ER, he'd be a sitting duck. "You're a medic," Daniel said, his voice stronger now but still strained. "Military. I can tell. Where do you serve?" "Doesn't matter," Cassidy said curtly, checking his pulse again. "Your heart rate is still too high. You need." The door burst open. A man strode in, and Cassidy's world tilted on its axis. She knew that face. She knew those cold, calculating eyes. She knew that walk, that presence, that air of authority that demanded compliance. Agent Samuel Cross. FBI. The man who destroyed her life. He stopped dead in his tracks when he saw her, his professional mask slipping for just a fraction of a second to reveal pure shock. "Cassidy Clancey," he said slowly, disbelief coloring every syllable. "You're supposed to be dead." Time seemed to freeze. Jenny looked confused. Daniel, despite his condition, tensed like a coiled spring. And Cassidy felt the carefully constructed walls of her new life crumbling around her. "I don't know who you're talking about," she said, her voice steady despite the terror clawing at her chest. "My name is Cassidy Monroe. I'm just a waitress." Cross laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Monroe. How creative. Using your mother's maiden name." He took a step closer, his hand resting casually on the weapon at his hip. "You were declared dead 3 years ago. Car accident, burned beyond recognition. We even had a funeral. I was there. I gave a very moving speech about what a tragic loss it was." "I think you have me confused with someone else," Cassidy said, but she could hear the weakness in her own voice. "No confusion. You're Captain Cassidy Clancey, former Army medic, 82nd Airborne. You served 3 tours in Afghanistan, 2 in Iraq. You came home, joined the FBI as a consultant, and then..." His eyes hardened. "Then you made some very serious accusations against some very important people. Accusations that, if they'd been made public, would have caused quite a scandal." Daniel groaned, pulling everyone's attention. "Whatever. Family reunion. This is... Can it wait? I'm dying." Cassidy's mind raced. He was right. If Cross arrested her, her name would go into the system. And while the people who tried to silence her might not have been actively looking for a dead woman, they'd certainly notice if Cassidy Clancey suddenly reappeared in federal custody. "This is insane," she muttered. 30 seconds, Cross said, pulling out his radio. "I'm calling for backup." Cassidy looked at Jenny, who was pale and trembling. The young college student didn't deserve to be dragged into this. None of this was fair. But life hadn't been fair for a long time. She made her decision in the span of a heartbeat. Grabbing a rolling pin from behind the counter, Cassidy threw it with perfect accuracy. It hit Cross's radio, sending it skittering across the floor. In the same motion, she grabbed a handful of sugar packets and threw them in his face, using the moment of distraction to kick the gun from his hand as he reached for it. Years of military training flooded back. Cross was larger, stronger, but Cassidy was faster and more desperate. She delivered a precise strike to his solar plexus, dropping him to his knees, then followed with a blow to the side of his head that left him dazed but conscious. "I'm sorry," she said to Jenny, who stood frozen in shock. Tell them I forced you to help. Tell them I threatened you. Do not get involved. Do you understand? Jenny nodded mutely. Cassidy hauled Daniel to his feet, supporting his weight. Can you walk? I can run if I have to, he said, though his grimace suggested otherwise. They stumbled toward the back exit, leaving Cross groaning on the floor. Cassidy knew she had maybe 2 minutes before he recovered enough to call for help. 2 minutes to get out of the area before every cop in Portland was looking for them. In the back alley, a delivery truck sat with its engine idling, someone making a late-night drop-off to the restaurant next door. Without hesitation, Cassidy guided Daniel to the passenger side and helped him in, then ran around to the driver's side. The delivery driver was inside the restaurant. His mistake. Cassidy jumped in, threw the truck into gear, and peeled out of the alley just as she heard Cross shouting behind them. You just stole a truck, Daniel observed, sounding almost impressed despite his condition. You just got poisoned by your own people, Cassidy countered, taking a sharp turn onto a side street. We all make poor life choices. As sirens began to wail in the distance, Cassidy gripped the steering wheel tighter and drove into the rainy Portland night, knowing that the quiet life she'd built was gone forever. Everything she'd done to stay hidden, to stay safe, had just been destroyed in the span of 20 minutes. And the worst part? She had no idea if she'd just saved a man's life or signed her own death warrant. Behind them, Agent Samuel Cross was already making calls. Ahead of them, somewhere in the darkness, were the people who'd betrayed Daniel Reaver. And somewhere in between was Cassidy's past, rising up like a vengeful ghost to drag her back into a world she'd fought so hard to escape. The rain pounded against the windshield as Cassidy drove, her passenger drifting in and out of consciousness beside her, and the city lights blurred into streaks of color. Her old commanding officer had once told her that some people are magnets for trouble, that they can run, they can hide, but eventually chaos finds them again. As blue and red lights began to flash in her rearview mirror, Cassidy realized he'd been absolutely right. Whoa, things just got intense. What do you think Cassidy will do next? Will she stay hidden? Or will her past catch up with her? Drop your predictions in the comments, and if you're loving the ride so far, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. You won't believe what happens in the next. Cassidy drove the stolen delivery truck through the labyrinth of Portland's industrial district, her mind working overtime. Every decision she made now had consequences, and they were all bad. Stay on main roads and Cross would have every cop in the city looking for them. Take the side streets and she'd risk dead ends or getting lost in an area she barely knew. Beside her, Daniel Reaver had his eyes closed, but his breathing was steady. That was good. The immediate danger had passed, but he still needed proper medical attention. Aconite poisoning wasn't something you just walked off. Where are we going? Daniel asked without opening his eyes. I have no idea, Cassidy admitted, checking the mirrors again. No signs of pursuit yet, but that wouldn't last. Do you have a safe house? Somewhere Cross and the Portland PD won't think to look. I have several, but I can't use any of them. Daniel's eyes opened, and despite his weakened state, his gaze was sharp. Whoever poisoned me knows about all of them. They've been planning this. My security team, my drivers, my people. I can't trust any of them right now. Then we're both homeless, Cassidy said grimly. Because I can't exactly go back to my apartment. Cross knows where I live. He probably has agents there already. They drove in silence for a moment, the only sounds the drum of rain on the roof and the rumble of the truck's engine. Pull over, Daniel said suddenly. That warehouse on the right. The one with the blue door. Cassidy eyed it suspiciously. I thought you said you couldn't trust your properties. It's not mine. It belongs to a friend. Someone outside my organization. Someone who wouldn't have any reason to want me dead. He paused. At least not yet. Cassidy pulled into the small lot beside the warehouse, killing the engine. The area was deserted, surrounded by similar buildings that all looked abandoned or rarely used. It was the kind of place where screams wouldn't be heard and bodies wouldn't be found for weeks. Not exactly reassuring. If this is a trap, she started. If I wanted to trap you, I would have let Agent Cross arrest us both, Daniel pointed out. You saved my life. In my world, that means something. It means everything. He pulled out his phone, which miraculously still worked despite everything, and made a call. The conversation was brief and in rapid Korean, but Cassidy caught enough to understand that Daniel was asking for help, not issuing orders. 5 minutes later, a sleek black car pulled up. A woman got out, young, maybe late 20s, with sharp eyes and an even sharper expression. She looked at Daniel, then at Cassidy, and something like amusement crossed her face. "So you're the waitress who saved the great Daniel Reaver," she said in perfect English. "I'm Yuna Park. And you are?" "Currently regretting every life choice that brought me to this moment," Cassidy replied. Yuna's smile widened. "I like her. Can we keep her?" "She's not a pet, Yuna," Daniel said, accepting her help as he climbed out of the truck. His legs were steadier now, but he still moved like every step hurt. "Pity." Yuna unlocked the warehouse door. "Come on. Both of you. We need to get you off the street before the entire Portland PD shows up." Inside, the warehouse was surprisingly well appointed. What looked like an abandoned building from the outside was actually a fully furnished safe house, complete with medical supplies, weapons, and enough surveillance equipment to make the FBI jealous. "Sit," Yuna ordered Daniel, pointing to a couch. "You look like death." "I was poisoned. It's expected." But he sat, and Cassidy could see the relief in his posture. Yuna turned her attention to Cassidy. "And you? Military? Former? Medic?" "Yes. Which is how you knew how to treat aconite poisoning on the fly in a diner with limited supplies." Yuna nodded approvingly. "Impressive. Most people would have just watched him die. Most people aren't hunted by the FBI for trying to expose corruption," Cassidy shot back. That made Yuna pause. She looked at Daniel, who nodded slightly. "Interesting. So you're both running from something. This should make for a fun evening." Yuna went to a cabinet and pulled out a medical kit that would have made a small hospital jealous. "Let's make sure our friend here isn't going to have a heart attack in the next few hours, shall we?" Over the next 30 minutes, Cassidy and Yuna worked together to properly assess Daniel's condition. His vital signs were stabilizing, and the worst of the poisoning seemed to have passed, but he'd need monitoring for at least the next 24 hours. "You were lucky," Cassidy told him as she checked his blood pressure. "If you'd gotten to the diner 15 minutes later, there wouldn't have been anything I could do." "Luck had nothing to do with it," Daniel said. "I was on my way to a meeting 3 blocks from that diner. When I started feeling the effects of the poison, I knew I needed immediate help. The diner was the closest option. And you knew not to trust a hospital. In my line of work, hospitals are where people go to die permanently. Too many opportunities for someone to finish what they started. A diner, though? With witnesses? Safer bet." He met her eyes. "I gambled that whoever was working there would either help me or ignore me. I didn't expect to find a trained medic." "The universe has a sick sense of humor," Cassidy muttered. Yuna had been monitoring her phone, and now she looked up with a grim expression. "We have a problem. Multiple problems, actually. First, the FBI has issued a bolo for Cassidy Clancey, wanted for assaulting a federal agent and aiding a known criminal. Your picture is everywhere." Cassidy's stomach dropped. "That was fast." "Agent Cross is motivated," Yuna continued. "Second, someone leaked information to the Korean-American Organized Crime Task Force that Daniel Reaver was poisoned tonight. They're conducting raids on all known properties associated with the Reaver organization. 23 arrests so far." Daniel's expression darkened. "Who leaked it?" "Unknown. But whoever it was has access to internal communications. The task force knew about the poisoning within 30 minutes of it happening. That means someone in my organization is working with law enforcement," Daniel finished. "Or law enforcement is working with whoever tried to kill me." "Third problem," Yuna said, turning her phone to show them a news article that was just going live. "The waitress who witnessed the incident, Jennifer Hartley, has been taken into protective custody. They're calling her a material witness." Cassidy felt a wave of guilt. Jenny was a sweet kid, working her way through community college, dreaming of becoming a veterinarian. She didn't deserve to be caught up in this. "They'll pressure her to testify," Cassidy said. "They'll use her testimony to build a case against me. And against Daniel," Yuna added. "If they can prove you aided him, They can use that to strengthen their case against his organization. Two birds, one stone. Daniel stood, moving more steadily now. He walked to the window, careful to stay out of sight, and looked out at the rainy Portland night. So we're both marked, he said quietly. The FBI wants Cassidy for exposing corruption, and for helping me. My organization wants me dead because someone betrayed me. And somewhere in the middle, there's a connection we're not seeing. What do you mean? Cassidy asked. Daniel turned to face her. Agent Cross. Tell me about him. Cassidy didn't want to. Every instinct told her to keep her past buried, to not trust anyone with the story of what had happened to her. But she was in too deep now. And if there was a chance that her past and Daniel's present were connected, she needed to know. So she told them about Captain James Harlow, a decorated officer who'd used his position to assault multiple women under his command. About how she'd reported him, how 6 other women had come forward. About how the investigation had been buried, how Harlow had been allowed to retire quietly with full honors. About how Agent Cross had been the FBI liaison on the case, the one who'd made it very clear that Cassidy's insistence on justice was going to be a problem for a lot of important people. They gave me a choice, Cassidy said, her voice hollow. Back down and accept that justice wasn't going to happen, or face consequences. I chose to keep pushing. And then evidence started disappearing. Witnesses recanted. My own credibility was called into question. They claimed I had PTSD, that I was mentally unstable, that I was fabricating accusations. So you agreed to witness protection, Daniel said. No. I was forced into it. But even that wasn't enough. The program director, Marshall Torres, told me that there were people who wanted me permanently silenced. He said the only way I'd survive was if I died. Officially. So he faked my death, gave me a new identity, and told me to disappear. To never use my skills, never draw attention to myself, never give anyone a reason to look twice. And you spent 3 years as a waitress, Una said softly. 3 years keeping my head down. 3 years pretending I wasn't a trained soldier. 3 years serving coffee and smiling at customers, and dying a little inside every single day. Cassidy's hands clenched into fists. And in one night it's all gone. Cross found me. Now everyone will know I'm alive. And the people who wanted me dead 3 years ago will have a second chance to finish the job. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Cross found you at the diner. But how did he know to look there? That was a question Cassidy had been trying not to think about. He said he was shocked to see me, that I was supposed to be dead. But he was there, Daniel pressed. At that specific diner at that specific time. The same diner where I happened to collapse after being poisoned. That's quite a coincidence. The implications hung in the air like poison gas. You think Cross knew you were going to be there, Cassidy said slowly. You think he was part of the plan to kill you. I think someone knew I would need help and that I would go to the closest location, Daniel said. What better place than a diner? Public enough that I might risk it, but not so secure that they couldn't finish the job if needed. And Agent Cross just happens to show up minutes after I arrive. But why would the FBI want you dead? Cassidy asked. Because I have information, Daniel said quietly. Information about corruption in Portland's government. About who really controls the ports, the construction contracts, the gambling operations. It's not just my organization, Cassidy. We're the face they show the public, the ones who take the fall when things go wrong. But behind us are legitimate businessmen, politicians, law enforcement. People who can't afford to have their connections exposed. Una pulled up a file on her laptop. Daniel's been compiling evidence for the past 2 years. Names, dates, transactions. He was planning to use it as leverage insurance against exactly this kind of betrayal. So someone decided to eliminate the threat, Cassidy said. And Cross's involvement suggests it goes higher than we thought, Daniel added. If the FBI is actively trying to cover up corruption by killing those who know about it, then we're not just dealing with a betrayal within my organization. We're dealing with a systemic conspiracy. Cassidy's head was spinning. She'd gone from making coffee to being in the middle of a conspiracy involving organized crime, federal agents, and political corruption. It was too much too fast. I can't do this, she said, standing abruptly. This isn't my fight. I just wanted to help someone who was dying. I didn't sign up for any of this. You signed up the moment you saved my life, Daniel said, but his voice was gentle. I understand this isn't what you wanted, but Cross has made sure you can't go back to your old life. Your face is on every news channel. Every cop in the city is looking for you. And the people you exposed 3 years ago now know you're alive. So what do you suggest? That I stay with you? Join your organization? Become a criminal? I suggest we help each other, Daniel said. You need protection from the people who want you silenced. I need someone I can trust while I figure out who betrayed me. Yuna is loyal, but she can't be everywhere at once. And more importantly, you're outside my organization. You have no reason to betray me. No connection to the people I'm trying to expose. Except for Cross, Cassidy said bitterly. Except for Cross, Daniel agreed. Which means we have a common enemy. The enemy of my enemy, as they say. Is my friend? That's your pitch. My pitch is that we both have information that powerful people want buried. We both have skills the other needs. And we both are running out of options very quickly. Daniel moved closer, and despite everything, Cassidy found herself respecting the strength it took for him to stay on his feet. I'm not asking you to join my organization, or become a criminal. I'm asking you to survive. And to help me do the same. Cassidy wanted to say no. Every rational part of her brain was screaming at her to walk away, to take her chances alone. But Daniel was right about one thing. She had no options left. What about my sister? The words came out before she could stop them. Daniel and Yuna exchanged glances. You have a sister? Yuna asked carefully. Tiana. She's 2 years younger than me. We were close before everything happened. After I went into witness protection, they told me I couldn't contact her. That it would put her at risk. Cassidy's voice cracked. I don't even know where she is, if she's okay, if she thinks I abandoned her, or if she believes I'm dead. Yuna was already typing. Full name. Tiana Clancey. Give me a few minutes. While Yuna worked, Daniel sat back down, and Cassidy could see the exhaustion catching up with him. He'd been poisoned, nearly died, gone on the run, and was now planning his next move. The man had to be running on nothing but willpower and adrenaline. Why did you really become a medic? Daniel asked suddenly. The question caught Cassidy off guard. What? You're clearly intelligent, capable. You could have chosen any number of military specialties. Why dedicate yourself to saving lives? Cassidy thought about giving him a pat answer, but found herself telling the truth instead. My father was a firefighter. He died pulling 2 kids out of a burning building when I was 15. Everyone called him a hero, and he was. But what I remember most is how the EMTs worked on him, how they tried everything to save him, how they didn't give up even when it was clear he wasn't going to make it. I wanted to be that person. The one who doesn't give up. The one who fights for every life, no matter what. And Captain Harlow taught me that some people don't deserve to be saved, Cassidy said bitterly. That the system protects predators and punishes victims. I found her. Yuna interrupted, her voice tight. Cassidy's heart leaped. Where is she? Portland. She's been here the whole time. Yuna turned the laptop around, and Cassidy felt her world tilt. On the screen was a photo of Tiana, looking older, harder than Cassidy remembered. She was standing next to Agent Samuel Cross, and they were clearly together, not just professionally but personally. The body language was unmistakable. No, Cassidy whispered. There's more, Yuna said gently. According to social media and public records, Tiana Clancey has been in a relationship with Samuel Cross for the past 2 years. They lived together. And she hesitated. Tiana is pregnant. For months along. The room spun. Cassidy grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. Her sister. Her baby sister, who she protected their entire childhood. Who she taught to ride a bike and helped with homework and promised to always look out for. That sister was now romantically involved with the man who destroyed Cassidy's life, who'd helped cover up her assault, who'd forced her into hiding. How did this happen? Cassidy asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Yuna dug deeper. After your death, Tiana was assigned a FBI victims advocate. It was Cross. He helped her through the grieving process, was there for her during the hardest time of her life. According to her social media, She credits him with saving her when she was at her lowest. He manipulated her, Cassidy said, anger replacing shock. He knew exactly how vulnerable she was and he used it. He probably needed leverage, a way to keep tabs on whether I was really dead or if I resurfaced. There's more, Yuna said reluctantly. Tiana works for a nonprofit that provides services to organized crime victims. Guess who's on their board of directors? Cross. And guess which organization her nonprofit has been most vocal about bringing down? Daniel answered before Yuna could. Mine. The pieces were falling into place, forming a picture so ugly that Cassidy felt physically sick. Cross had taken her sister, manipulated her, gotten her pregnant, and was now using her as a weapon against Daniel's organization. The same organization that Cross was apparently conspiring with others to dismantle or take over. He's been planning this for years, Cassidy said. He didn't just stumble upon me at that diner. He knew I was alive. He's probably known for a while. But he couldn't move against me without exposing the cover-up. So he waited. And he used my sister to make sure that if I ever came back, he'd have leverage. Your sister believes you abandoned her, Daniel said quietly. Cross made sure of that. He told her you chose to disappear rather than fight. That you were a coward who ran away and left her alone. How do you know that? Because that's what I would do if I wanted to control someone. Make them believe they were abandoned by the person they loved most. Make them grateful to you for being there when that person wasn't. Create a bond based on lies and manipulation. Cassidy sank into a chair, her mind reeling. Everything was connected. Her past, Daniel's present, Cross's conspiracy. It was a web that had been years in the making, and she just walked right into the center of it. So what do we do? She asked, looking between Daniel and Yuna. We find out who poisoned me, Daniel said. We find out how deep Cross's conspiracy goes. And we find a way to expose all of it without getting killed in the process. And my sister? Daniel's expression softened. We save her too. But first we need to understand exactly what we're up against. Yuna, I need you to dig into Cross's background. His financials, his connections, his cases over the past 5 years. There has to be a pattern. I'm on it, Yuna said, already typing. And you, Daniel said to Cassidy, need to rest. You've had one hell of a night, and it's only going to get worse from here. We have a bedroom upstairs. It's secure. I can't sleep, Cassidy protested. My sister is out there with that monster. And rushing in without a plan will get you both killed, Daniel interrupted firmly. Cross has spent years building this. We're not going to dismantle it in one night. You need to be sharp, focused. That means rest. Cassidy wanted to argue, but exhaustion was catching up with her. The adrenaline that had kept her going was fading, leaving behind a bone-deep weariness that made her limbs feel like lead. Fine, she said. But we start planning in the morning. I'm not hiding while my sister is in danger. Agreed, Daniel said. As Cassidy headed upstairs, she heard Yuna say quietly, She's going to be a problem, you know? She's not one of your soldiers. She won't follow orders blindly. I know, Daniel replied. That's why I need her. Cassidy didn't sleep so much as fall into an exhausted half-conscious state, her mind cycling through nightmares of her sister, of Cross, of Captain Harlow's face as he'd threatened her 3 years ago. When she finally dragged herself downstairs 6 hours later, dawn was breaking over Portland, and the warehouse was filled with the smell of coffee and something that might have been Korean food. Yuna was still at her computer, looking like she hadn't slept at all. Daniel sat at a table covered in papers, his color better but his expression grim. And there was someone new, a young man, maybe early 20s, with nervous eyes and fidgeting hands. Cassidy, this is Marcus Chun, Daniel said. He's one of my accountants. One of the few people I still trust. Marcus, this is the woman who saved my life. Marcus nodded jerkily. Mr. Reaver told me what happened. I think I know who poisoned you. Everyone's attention snapped to him. I've been going through the books like you asked, Marcus continued, his words tumbling out quickly. Looking for irregularities, unexplained transfers, anything that seemed off. And I found something. Over the past 6 months, there have been regular payments from our accounts to a shell company called Pacific Consulting Group. $50,000 a month. Every month. Like clockwork. I never authorized those payments, Daniel said. I know. That's what made me look closer. The authorizations come from your executive assistant, Lisa Park. Yuna's head snapped up. My cousin? Lisa. Marcus nodded miserably. I'm sorry. I know you two are close, but the signatures are hers. And when I trace Pacific Consulting Group, it's registered to an address that doesn't exist. It's a front. A front for what? Cassidy asked. That's where it gets interesting, Yuna said, pulling up a file on her laptop. I've been digging into this Pacific Consulting Group. On the surface, it's a legitimate business consulting firm. But dig deeper, and you find connections to 3 different FBI investigations over the past 2 years. Cases involving money laundering, racketeering, and organized crime, Daniel finished. They're an FBI front. Which means my own organization has been unknowingly funding an FBI operation against me. And your executive assistant has been the one authorizing the payments, Cassidy added. Does Lisa know what she's doing? That's the question, Daniel said. Is she a willing participant? Or is she being used? She's being blackmailed, Yuna said quietly. Has to be. Lisa wouldn't betray family. Not willingly. Everyone has a price, Daniel said, but his voice was gentle. Or a pressure point. We need to find out which. Marcus, I need you to trace every transaction Lisa has authorized in the past year. Every payment, every transfer, everything. Look for patterns. Marcus nodded and scurried to a corner with his laptop. There's more, Yuna said. I pulled Cross's financial records, don't ask how, and he's been making regular deposits to an offshore account. $50,000. Monthly. Starting 6 months ago. The same amount being paid to Pacific Consulting Group, Cassidy said. So Cross is running an operation, using Daniel's organization to fund it, and pocketing the money. But that doesn't explain the poisoning, Daniel said. If Cross was making money off me, why try to kill me? Because you were getting too close to something, Cassidy said, the pieces clicking together. You said you've been compiling evidence of corruption. What if Cross found out? What if he realized that your evidence would expose not just the politicians and businessmen, but him too? Daniel pulled out a flash drive from his pocket. Everything I've gathered is on here. Names, dates, wire transfers, recorded conversations. 2 years of careful documentation. And 3 days ago, I told my inner circle that I was ready to go public with it. Who did you tell? Yuna asked sharply. My attorney, my head of security, and Lisa. Lisa, Yuna whispered. Oh God, Lisa. If she's working with Cross, or if she's being blackmailed and told him about the evidence. Cassidy trailed off. Then killing me becomes the only way to make sure that evidence never sees the light of day, Daniel finished. Especially if I'm the only one who knows where all the pieces are and how they connect. But you have the flash drive, Cassidy pointed out. This is a copy. The originals are in a secure location that only I know about. If I die, they stay hidden. If Cross or anyone associated with him tries to access them, they're automatically uploaded to every major news outlet and law enforcement agency in the country. It's my insurance policy. Smart, Cassidy admitted. Except now someone tried to kill you before you could use it as leverage. Which means they're desperate, Yuna said. Whatever's on that drive must be explosive. Daniel hesitated, then plugged the flash drive into Yuna's laptop. Files appeared on screen, hundreds of them, meticulously organized. Start with the file labeled Cross, Daniel said. Yuna opened it, and even from across the room, Cassidy could see the color drain from her face. This is bigger than we thought, Yuna said. Daniel, this isn't just about corruption in Portland. Cross has been running a multi-state operation. He's been using his position with the FBI to facilitate drug trafficking, human smuggling, and weapons dealing. And he's been using local organized crime groups as cover. He sets up legitimate criminals, Cassidy said slowly, makes high-profile arrests to build his career, while running his own operations under everyone's noses. And anyone who threatens to expose him disappears, Daniel added. Like you almost did, Cassidy. How many people are involved? Cassidy asked, moving closer to see the screen. Yuna scrolled through the files. At least 20 that I can see so far. FBI agents, police officers, judges, prosecutors. It's a network. And they're all connected through Cross. Marcus spoke up from his corner. I found something else. Lisa's been making personal payments to a medical facility, Providence Medical Center, specifically to their oncology department. Yuna's face went white. Her mother, Aunt Jean, has cancer. She was diagnosed 8 months ago. The timeline clicked. 8 months ago, the payments to Pacific Consulting Group started. 8 months ago, Lisa's mother got sick. Cross is paying for her mother's treatment, Cassidy said. That's the blackmail. He probably approached her, offered to help with the medical bills, and in return, all she had to do was authorize some payments. Payments she probably didn't even understand were funding his operation. And when Daniel told her about the evidence, she told Cross, Yuna said, her voice breaking. She didn't mean to betray you, Daniel. She was just trying to save her mother. And Cross used that to poison me, Daniel said grimly. He probably told Lisa she needed to help him one more time, that if she didn't, her mother's treatment would stop. We need to find Lisa, Cassidy said, before Cross realizes we know about her. Too late for that, Yuna said, pulling up a news article that had just gone live. Lisa Park's body was found this morning in her apartment. Parent suicide. She left a note confessing to embezzling from the Reaver organization. The room fell silent. She's dead because of me, Daniel said quietly. Because I trusted her with information that made her a liability to Cross. She's dead because of Cross, Cassidy corrected firmly. Don't give him that power. This is on him, not you. But the weight of Lisa's death hung heavy in the air. A young woman trying to save her mother, caught between a rock and a hard place, and ultimately disposed of when she became more trouble than she was worth. We need to move, Yuna said, forcing herself back to professional mode. If Cross is cleaning up loose ends, we're next on the list. This warehouse is secure, but it won't stay that way forever. Agreed, Daniel said. But we can't just run. We need to go on the offensive. Marcus, copy everything Lisa authorized in the past year. Every transaction, every payment. We're going to need evidence that connects her to Cross and Pacific Consulting Group. On it, Marcus said. Yuna, I need you to reach out to your contacts in the media. Quietly. Find someone we can trust with this story when the time comes. I know someone, Yuna said. Investigative journalist. Stubborn as hell. She's been trying to expose corruption in Portland for years. Good. Brief her, but don't give her anything concrete yet. We need to time this right. And me? Cassidy asked. Daniel looked at her, and she saw the calculation in his eyes. He was weighing options, considering angles, planning several moves ahead. You're going to help me get to your sister, he said finally. What? No. That's too dangerous. If Cross even suspects. He already suspects, Daniel interrupted. He saw you with me. He knows we're working together now, which means he's going to use every weapon in his arsenal against us. And his most powerful weapon is your sister. Exactly. Which is why going anywhere near her is suicide. Not if we're smart about it. Tiana believes you're dead, right? And she believes you abandoned her. According to what Cross told her, yes. Then we use that. We make her question everything Cross has told her. We plant seeds of doubt. And we do it in a way that doesn't put her in immediate danger. How? Cassidy demanded. Daniel pulled out his phone and showed her Tiana's social media. Your sister is active on Instagram. She posts about her work, her life, her pregnancy. And she follows several accounts related to military families and veteran support groups. So we create an account. A veteran who served with you. Someone who knew you, who can share stories about the real Cassidy Clancey. Not the coward Cross painted you as, but the hero you actually were. We start small, likes and supportive comments on her posts about veteran issues. Build trust. And then when the time is right, we reach out directly. It was manipulative. It was risky. It was also possibly the only way to reach Tiana without alerting Cross. I don't like it, Cassidy said. I don't like lying to her more than she's already been lied to. Then think of it as telling her the truth, Daniel said. Just carefully. Just safely. Before Cassidy could respond, Yuna's phone buzzed. She looked at it, frowned, and answered. The conversation was brief and in Korean, but Cassidy could tell from Yuna's expression it wasn't good news. That was one of my sources in the Portland PD, Yuna said after hanging up. They found the delivery truck you stole. It was torched, and they found a body inside. Cassidy's stomach dropped. The driver? No ID yet, but preliminary reports suggest it's a male mid-30s, multiple gunshot wounds. The fire was meant to destroy evidence, but it looks like he was killed before the truck was burned. Cross is tying up loose ends, Daniel said. Anyone who saw us, anyone who could connect the dots. Jenny, Cassidy said suddenly, terror flooding through her. Cross has Jenny in protective custody. If he's killing witnesses, she's in federal custody, Yuna said. That's actually safer. There are procedures, oversight. He can't just make her disappear without questions. He made me disappear 3 years ago, Cassidy pointed out. He's good at making inconvenient people vanish. Daniel stood, decision made. Yuna, find out where they're keeping Jenny. We need eyes on her. If Cross tries anything, we need to know. Marcus, keep digging. I want every financial connection between Cross and anyone in Portland's government, law enforcement, or business community. And us? Cassidy asked. We're going shopping, Daniel said. If we're going to take down Agent Cross and expose his conspiracy, we're going to need resources. And I know just where to get them. What happens when your past can't be outrun? Cassidy is trapped in a web of secrets, lies, and betrayal. You won't want to miss what happens next. Hit the like button, share your theories in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe so you're the first to know when episode 2 drops.